So let's see if this sounds like you. You're a video editor, you worked in Adobe for a long time, but now for whatever reason, you're looking for something else. And you heard about Resolve, but once you open it up, you're like, what the hell is this? And to top it all off, you work in Boris Effects, and things just got super confusing. Well, you found the right channel. Let's talk some more right after the intro. Hi, welcome to Resolving Boris. I'm Bruce, and I'm really glad you're here. Now, if you're new to the channel, I started out in Premiere and AE back before the Creative Cloud, so it's been a little bit over 15 years, and then I started working in Resolve in 2021. So I also use Boris for a lot of effects, and one thing that I found is that there are a lot of tutorials out there about Boris. There's also a lot of tutorials about Resolve, but there's really not a lot about how to use both of them together. And because Resolve's workflow is different than AE's, it can be a bit confusing. I use Boris for a lot of effects, and one thing that I found is that there are channels out there on Boris, there's channels on Resolve, but nothing specifically about using Boris in Resolve. So that's why I created this channel. Fusion, which is Resolve's version of AE, uses nodes as opposed to the comps and pre-comps that you're used to in After Effects, so it can be a bit confusing. Also, a lot of tutorials just dump you right into the really advanced effects because they want to show you something really cool. However, I believe that you should have a foundational knowledge of whatever application you're going to be working in. So that way you can take those concepts and translate them into your own techniques and go beyond what the tutorial has shown you. So that way you're thinking of concepts as opposed to hard-coded techniques. So if you're a video editor or a motion graphics editor moving over to or just checking out Resolve, this channel is specifically for you. So this video is just going to be basically an overview of Resolve, including a quick look at Fusion and the color page to kind of give you an idea of the workflow and how the different pages work together. So this is not a deep dive. It's just going to kind of give you a mental map so you don't get lost when you're working in Resolve. I'll go through more detailed information in later videos. So let's dive into Resolve and see how it all works. So now we're going to start jumping into Resolve. And one thing that I was thinking about when I was setting this up was that there are so many tutorials out there that just show one particular clip and how to do something in that one particular clip. So since this channel is specifically for editors, I wanted to kind of take each video as a project unto itself. So I'm going to go ahead and open Resolve. And the one thing that you'll notice when you first open Resolve is it uses a database system, or what's called a project library system. What that does is it helps organize all of your projects into an easy way for you to find them. You can set up a project library by clicking on this button right here, and then you can actually set up different folders. So as you can see, I have one for client A and client B, and then I can just go in and I can set up a project, and that'll just live within that particular folder. So it's an easy way for me to keep everything organized. And the really nice thing about the database system is you have power bins, which we'll get into later. And what those allow you to do is share files between different projects in the same database. For instance, if you're working with a particular client, you don't have to import their logo into each separate project that you're working on for them. As I mentioned, I'm going to be doing this in a project style format. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a project that I created specifically for this video and possibly for more videos later on. Here we are in this project, and it's a spec project that I'm doing for Ninja blenders. So this is basically a girl making a smoothie after her workout. As you can see, you have a whole bin system right here. And when you first go into Resolve, you'll have all these different pages set up down on the bottom screen right here. So before I go into a deep dive on each of them, I'm just kind of going to give you an overview of what each individual page does and some of the features that as an editor you're going to find the most useful. We'll go into the media page, and this is your ingest system. So this is where you're going to ingest all of your media. Say I want to add an additional clip to this project, so I can go in here, we'll do a triggerfish. So now I have all the information regarding this clip, and then I can also add in things like the scene and the take number and the shot number and the reel number and all this other metadata and other ways for you to organize your files even more. You can also add keywords, so it really helps keep everything organized. And as you can see over here, I also have my metadata right here that can see all the information for the clip. Another nice thing about this area is if you're working with an old school style project, you have a slate but no audio for the video clip, but you have it recorded separately, this is where you would sync it up. And it's a real easy process, but it's for another time, another video. So this is where you basically lay the foundation for your project. There's also the cut page, and this is basically a trimmed down version of the edit page. So this is where you can make a really fast selects reel, for instance. And I can navigate through my entire timeline just by going here. I can see what my different clips are, and I can see I also have another track right here. So it's a really easy way for you to navigate up and down your timeline. There are other ways in Resolve to navigate up and down your timeline, but this is a really easy kind of way to do it. Another nice thing about it that I really like is that if I go into my source video right here and I go into exercising, for instance, and I want to add this clip in here, but I'm not directly over my cut point. My cut point is right here. If I was to take this clip, I was going to insert it in Premiere with a shortcut, it would put it right here, right where my timecode indicator is, not at the exact cut point. But if I'm on the cut page, I can just hit insert, and now it adds it right there. It hasn't cut that anything. It's just put it at the nearest cut point. That's just an easy way to put your selects together. Now, your edit page is where you're going to do most of your heavy editing. Now, also, you'll see that you have all these different tabs up here as well. You can add transitions and you can add titles and you can add effects on here, but I prefer to do that on the edit page. I'm going to go into the edit page and I'll show you something that I really like about Resolve. So the edit page is where you're going to do most of your heavy lifting as far as editing and so forth. And as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, you have a bin system where you can set up your bins. You have your power bins, which is where you can add different assets to that, and it'll be shared through all the different projects in that particular database. And then it also has smart bins where it actually sorts things according to keywords, so that way you don't have to hunt through all your different bins just to find a particular timeline. Everything is right there for you. Now, the thing that I like about Resolve, and some people don't like this, all the panels are in one location. You can't move panels around it. But what you can do is you can turn them on and off. So if I turn off the effects, I don't have the effects anymore, but the media pool's there. And then if I close the media pool, it's a fluid layout. So everything moves to adjust to what panels are open and what panels are closed. If I go ahead and click on the effects panel, now everything moves around. And with the effects, you can see that they're all organized by different types of effects. Now, Resolve effects, those are effects that are mostly reserved for people who have the paid studio version. And I'm assuming that if you've paid for Boris, you've probably paid the $300 for the studio version of Resolve. And then also you have open effects, and those are for anything that's OFX. OFX effects are things that are cross-platform. So the thing about Boris, as you probably know, is that it's not just in Premiere or just in Resolve, but it's cross-platform. It also works in Avid, it works in Vegas, it works in most of the main editing platforms. And as you can see, it's all organized by the BCC effects, the Sapphire effects, is organized by filters. And then another thing you have is you also have your favorites. And this is where you can put in things that you use a lot. Like I use adjustment clips a lot, I use fusion comps a lot. And so all you do is you just go into your list and you put stars next to whichever ones you want to have in your favorites, and you can actually put that down to Resolve Effects, Open Effects. So it's a really easy way to keep everything organized. Now your index, this is basically your editing history. So you can see all the different edits that you've made. The sound library is a database of all your audio files, and I'll get into that later when we get more over into the FAIRLIGHT page. And then you also have your keyframe editor, and there's actually two different versions of the keyframe editor. There's this one right here, and this is actually a floating panel. And the nice thing about the keyframe editor is you can add keyframes outside of the clip. So I could actually add a keyframe before the clip starts. So it's a really, really neat way to do it. And it's something that Resolve users were asking for a long time, and Blackmagic finally put it in. And that's the thing I like about Blackmagic, is they really listen to their users. Now you also have quick export. It's the presets that you use the most, and they're already set up here, so I don't have to go into the deliver page to get to my presets for export. So if I just want to export it straight from here, I can do that. And then you have your audio mixer right here, so you can have that on or off, and it works just like in the FAIRLIGHT page, but it's specifically for the editing page. And then you have your metadata page, so you don't have to go into the media page to access the metadata. You also have your inspector, and this is where you set all your parameters, all kinds of different stuff. And dynamic zoom is really cool. That's something I'll show you here in a little bit. Now, if you like to have two monitors open, you can actually go into workspace and uncheck single viewer mode. And now you have your source video right here if that's the way that you prefer to cut. One thing you may be concerned about is, say you're coming over from Premiere, but you don't want to have to learn a whole new set of shortcuts. Go up to Davinci Resolve and then keyboard customization. And now you have all these different keyboard presets. And so you can still do the Adobe Premiere Pro keyboard layout if you want. Say you're just going to be using Resolve for color correction. You don't have to worry too much about having to learn a whole new set of keyboard shortcuts. So it's really easy. But if you're going to be using Resolve as your main editor, then you might as well go ahead and learn all the shortcuts. There are some really cool shortcuts that you're going to want to learn anyway. So if I want to add an effect to a clip, say I want to add a blur effect for some reason, I'll go over here, type in blur. So I'll go up to Toolbox, and it shows all the different type of blur effects in that particular folder. And then if I go into Resolve Effects, then I have this. So I want to add a lens blur. Just add that right there, drop it on there, and now I've got the lens blur. I can change the blur size. We'll get more into effects later on. You can also add transitions. Going over here above the timeline, this is where you're going to find your different controls. You can turn on your snapping, you can turn on or turn off linking between your audio and your video, and then you can also adjust the timeline. Now, an easy shortcut that I found for timeline management for zooming in and out is I just hold down the Alt key, and then I just use my scroll wheel to zoom in and out of the timeline. So it's a really easy way to do that. Now, if I just want to turn off this effect temporarily, I just turn it off right here. Or if I just want to get rid of the whole thing, I do it right there. Say if I want to add a zoom effect to this clip, say I just want to zoom in on her real quick, I could set it up with keyframes. I would keyframe the zoom level, and I would keyframe the position level. But say I want to add a zoom really fast. All I have to do is click on dynamic zoom, and now if I play it, does that little zoom. But if I want it to go in the opposite direction, I would just go into dynamic zoom, open this up, swap it. Now it zooms in a different direction. That's an easy way to do a quick zoom. And again, there's more stuff to show you on that. Another really handy keyboard shortcut that I like is I like to be able to duplicate a clip just by holding down Alt and then drag that up, and now I've got a new clip. Because now I want to add some more heavy-duty effects to this clip, but without risking messing it up. Because I'm going to take this clip into the Fusion page. So I'll just right-click on it. I'll do Open in Fusion page. And now you can see this is where I'm going to be setting up all of my effects for this clip. And there's a lot of different effects, but I'm just going to go through a couple here so you can get an idea. A lot of tutorials out there, they will have the horizontal flow. So this right here is called your flow. And they have it in a horizontal method. But because I worked in After Effects for so long, I have that kind of mentality where I like to have layers, and those go from top to bottom, not side to side. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the media pool. I'll just add a background node, and nodes are pretty interesting, and I'll show you how those work here in a second. So I'm going to put the background node in here. I'm going to disconnect this node. Now, this is the media in is the clip that was just in the timeline. And also I'm going to change this to one viewer. So I'm going to move this down here just to kind of keep things clean. And then I'll connect my background node to the media out node. And the media out node is what is going to appear on the timeline back in the edit page. So I like to create a layer. And the way that I create a layer is I grab a merge node. And I'll grab a merge node, put it over there, and you can see the line turns from a solid yellow to a yellow and blue. And so that way I know that the merge node is hooked up. So say I wanted to take a merge node, I take it over here and drop it. It's not actually part of the flow. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But now what I want to do is, because I want to put this back in here, what I'll do is I'll just take the output and plug it into the foreground. So let me show you anatomy of a node. I'm going to drag this down here. So this is you're basically the main type of node. So you'll have your background, which is this yellow triangle. You'll have your foreground, which is the green triangle. You'll have your mask, which is this blue triangle. And then you have the output, which is this one right here. So that's how a node works. And once you understand it, you're going to be like, oh my God, why haven't I worked this way before? I'm going to change this to fit. If I go in here into the merge node, what I can do is I can actually rotate her right here. So the controls that I'm doing in this merge node only apply to the foreground. They don't apply to the background. Because I changed the rotation on that, say I want to go back, I'll just double click on angle and it puts it right back to the default. I'm going to add an effect to this. So I want to find my effect. Now I could open the effect panel right here, but the quick and dirty way to do it is to hold down shift and hit spacebar. The BCC and BCC plus effects don't really work all that well in Fusion. They work great on the edit page and on the color page, but they don't really work well in the Fusion page. So hopefully that's something that they'll address later on. But I'm going to try adding film grain. So I'm going to add some film grain. And now in this effect, I can now add some effect. I'm going to crank this up so you can really see it. So you can see I can do all my effects in here in this node. And then if I want to turn it off, it's completely non-destructive. So I can add an effect without that. Now, say if I want to add some text over her, I can take this merge node, I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to put that over. Now we've got another layer on top of her. What I'll do is I'll go up here, I'll grab a text node, and I'll drag that as an overlay. So we'll type in healthy life. I can change the font right here. We'll do impact. We'll change the size, and then we'll change line spacing. Now you can use the sliders to do it really fast, but what I like to do is I like to go over the numbers. It gives me more control. So another thing that I can do to the text is, without adding any extra effects to it, is I can go into shading and I can add an outline, and it defaults to red, but I could change this to green. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because I'm going to show you something else. So as you can see, it's overlaid. That's fine. But what I want to do is I want to make it a mask. Well, easy way to do that is just take it, plug it into the mask node. But say I want to have the mask be inverted. So I just want to have black text over that. So what I can do now is I can go into settings and I can do apply mask inverted. And now if I go into the background node and I change this to, let's say a dark green, now it's a mask. Or I can put in pictures or whatever I want to do. So there's all kinds of things that I can do there. But I'm going to go ahead and change that back. So that's how easy it is to work in the Fusion space. And we'll get more into more detail later. Now also, another way to add a mask is, say I want to add this mask right here. I want to unplug it from there. I want to put the mask over her like that. Now if I want to invert the mask, now it's going to be there. So there's so many things that you can do in the Fusion page, and it's so easy once you figure out how to get used to it. And one more thing that I want to show you as far as how to make this a lot like After Effects, the multi-merge tool. So I'm going to do that as a multi-merge. Then I'm going to take another merge, throw it in here. And now what I can do is I can take this background, plug it in here. But now this is where the magic happens. So say I want to add fast noise. I want to add a text node. And I want to turn down the alpha on that, make it transparent. So now I've got all these effects, but check this out. This is what's really cool, is now I have basically layers as comps and pre-comps like I do in After Effects. So it's a really cool way to work. And then I can control each of these different things. So say I go into this noise layer, right? So if I go on here, I'm going to change this so you can see it a little bit easier. So now you can see it, there I have it. And so what I can do is then I can change the size right here. And now another really cool thing that I'm going to show you is I can change the parameters for each of these individual layers right here. But what if I want to change them all as a group? Well, all I have to do is come over to the transform node, drag that on there, and now everything is being changed just with this one node. So it takes layers and comps and pre-comps and translates them into something that is a lot easier to manage. And the thing is that I could come back to this Fusion comp later on, or I could have gotten this comp from somebody else, from another editor, and I can look at it and I can know what's going on instantly. So it's just a really, really cool way to work. I'm going to go back to the edit page, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. That's the Fusion page, and I'm going to be going into more detail later on, especially on how to use Boris along with Resolve in Fusion especially, and also on the edit page, and get some really cool effects for your clients. If I want to grade this, all I have to do is click on color, and the color page also works with nodes, and we'll get to that in a second, but I want to go over how everything works on the color page. Again, you have all these different buttons, and you can see they're slightly different than the buttons that you'll find on the other pages. So gallery is basically, if I set up a grade for this clip right here, if I really like it and I want to apply it to all the other clips, I don't have to regrade them. All I have to do is just grab a still, and now whatever I did to this clip, I can just right click on it and I can add it to a different clip. Now LUTs is where you have your list of LUTs, and then you have your media pool, of course. Then your clips, this is all the clips from the timelines. The timeline comes in handy because I have this overlay right here on another track. I can make sure that I'm making an adjustment to the underlying clip, which is her drinking her smoothie, instead of doing some color correction to the graphic overlay. So it really helps you make sure that you're doing things in the right way. So now down below, whatever you select here, it's going to appear down here. So like my curves, I have my color slice, which really helps you narrow down different colors that you're going to be working on. Same thing with the color warper. You can also set qualifiers right here. You can also do your white balance right here. So if I click on this right here and I click on the white wall, then I know my white balance is set correctly. And there's some more in-depth ways, but it's a quick and dirty way to do your white balance. You also have windows. There's so much stuff in the color page that I'm not going to have time to get to in this video. So we'll be going over a lot of that stuff. Now, another thing that's similar to Boris is AI masking. I can go in here and turn on the mask, and now just click on her head, and you can see it just got her hair. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. So now she's all masked, and then all I have to do is click on the track, and now she's all masked out. And then I can add an alpha output, and then I'll add a node, and then do that there. And now if I go to the edit page, I can see she's been masked out. So it's a really easy way to do it. Now, there's advantages between Boris and there's advantages between Resolve, and that's what this channel is all about, is helping you find what works best for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete that node, and then I'm just going to reset this node grade. So now I don't have to worry about that anymore. Over here you have your color wheels. Also I have my camera information, my color match, then I have my color wheels, and I can also do HDR right here if it's an HDR clip. And then I have my color bars right here, so I can change the color there. You can also add your effects right here to different nodes. So I can add in film grain. Now that we're done with color, we're gonna go over into the Fairlight page. And Fairlight is where you do your sound design. So you have your media pool, you have your effects. With the video effects, you have OFX effects. With audio, you have VST effects. Fairlight effects, these are the ones that come with Resolve. And then you have your VST effects, and these are things from outside vendors. So I have Soundly Place It, which is a really cool, fun effect to use. And then Sound Library, this is where you can set up different databases. Like I have my music database and my sound effects database. And if I go into my music database and then I hit the asterisk 3 times, it pulls in all of the different music tracks that I have on my hard drive. What I'll do is I'll just drag this over here, put it on there, and now I'm not opening up Explorer, or if you're on a Mac, Finder, and searching through all that stuff. It's all right here, and it's really easy to update. Again, that's something else we're going to get into more later. And that also works on the edit page, so I can do the same thing, hit the asterisk key 3 times, or I could search for, let's say I want to look for anything with the word flower in it. So say as an editor, you know that you have some favorite tracks and you know what the names are, but you're not sure where they are on your hard drive. Well, what you can do is you can just go in here, you can type in the name, boom, you've got it already there. So there's more to the sound library than I can get into right now, but it's just a really, really cool feature. So I'm gonna go back into the Fairlight page, and then there's also ADR. You also have your mixer, you have your meters, you have your inspector. And then if I want to add an EQ to this track right here, I just click on EQ right here and it brings up my EQ. And then there's also some really cool AI tools. Some of them work great on the Fairlight page, but others actually work better on the edit page. For instance, the AI music editor, where you're changing the length, actually works better on the edit page than it does on this page. I'm not sponsored by Blackmagic, so I'll say what I like and what I don't like, and I have zero problem doing that. If I go on to here, now you can see my music track is way too long. I want to take this track and make it match the length of the video. So I'm going to click on Live Trim, and then I'm going to drag the end of it to right there, and now it's analyzing the clip, and it'll give me 4 options. So that one's a little bit too long, that one's a little bit shorter, that one's way too short, and that one's about the right length. And you can see, if we go in here, you can see where the different cut points were made. So if I go in here, let's play this back. So that's how quick it was. Now, again, that was on the edit page. You can also stack effects. And then of course you have your meters up here as well. Now I'm gonna go on to the deliver page. And this is where I can output my video. I have all the different presets. The thing is that I don't like is that I can only have one channel per social media preset. For instance, if I go into preferences and I go into internet accounts, you can see I'm only allowed to have one YouTube account. So if I'm working for 5 different creators, I can't just upload directly to each of their YouTube channels directly from the timeline like I could to mine. So what I have to do is I have to export the finished product to my hard drive and then upload that to YouTube. And it's kind of a pain, but hopefully it's something that Blackmagic will take into account, because I've seen a lot of feedback on it saying, hey, I need to have more than one social media account per channel. That's the only thing that I really have a problem about that. If I have my preset right here, I can name it, I can add it to the render queue, it'll appear over here. There is vertical resolutions now that you can do. Presentations is the equivalent to Frame.io, where you can collaborate with your client and your client can add notes. There's also Dropbox Replay, which is what I use. I'll upload it to Dropbox Replay, send the client the link, and then they can watch the video online, make any notes, and those notes will appear directly on my timeline. So it makes it really easy for remote editing and collaboration and so forth. That's my introduction to Resolve. So if you have any questions, let me know. Put them down in the comments. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a lot more deep dives into the different pages of Resolve, and then also how to work with Boris inside of Resolve. Now, the next videos that I'm going to do are going to be on Boris. Boris is so huge that I'm going to split that into 3 different videos. And each video is going to be structured around a certain type of effect. So the next video will be about particle illusion, sapphire, and BCC and BCC plus effects, because they have similar functions. And then the next video about that will be more on the motion tracking and rotoscoping side of it. So that's going to be on Mocha and Silhouette and Synthesize. And then the video after that will be on the audio thing. So it'll be about Crumple Pop, also the new audio tools that they added. Now, the thing about those is that they are Windows only. And I'm going to be switching over to a Mac in the next couple months. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time learning those, but I'll kind of give you a little bit of an overview on those as well. I hope you really like this video. I hope it helps you out a lot. Go ahead, like and subscribe so that way you'll be notified when the new videos come out. And we'll talk to you later.